The suitcase zipper catches on the fabric. You pull it slower. Their hand rests on the counter. They don't look up. You drop the keys beside their coffee mug. The room holds its breath. Nothing moves. You finally step toward the door. Why does this always end like this? Am I just too much to hold? Do they even notice when I leave? You're not failing at love. This isn't a sign you chose the wrong person. By the time you understand exactly what shifts in an avoidant nervous system when you finally stop chasing, you'll know how to step back without breaking the bond, how to create real safety, and how to let their longing do the heavy lifting for you. Let's get into it. Most couples believe distance means love is dying, but the real truth is that an avoidant partner's attachment system only wakes up when the pursuit finally stops. Your nervous system reads tension before your mind can name it. When pressure replaces presence, the love doesn't disappear. It goes underground. You push because you want closeness. They pull because they need safety. What looks like coldness is usually a nervous system protecting itself from drowning. You've spent years trying to prove your worth through effort. Here's the thing. Trying harder without changing the emotional tone just builds taller walls. Real connection isn't built through persistence. It's built through regulated space. When you understand that their withdrawal isn't rejection, but a survival response, you stop fighting the cycle. You start changing it. And once you shift your stance, everything else follows naturally. The chase triggers the escape. Most couples think leaning in closer will close the gap between them. But beneath the surface, pursuit reads like pressure to a nervous system already scanning for threat. Your partner's brain isn't calculating logic in that moment. It's tracking your emotional temperature. And when it senses urgency, the body automatically steps back to survive. You send the longer text. You ask the deeper question. They give the shorter reply. You double down. The cycle repeats. But here's what changes everything. Not louder conversations. Not more compromising. Not scheduling weekly check-ins. But two people who actually feel safe enough to pause the pattern instead of feeding it. When you stop chasing, your partner stops running. Their chest finally unclenches. You watch their eyes soften across the room. That's when your partner stops feeling like a problem to manage and starts feeling like a person to come home to. Here's the part no one talks about. Absence activates the blueprint. Most people in relationships assume stepping back will push them further apart. Yet the avoidant mind actually begins mapping your presence only after you leave the room. Your quiet becomes a mirror. Their nervous system finally has room to register what it's missing without the static of conflict. You walk away to protect your peace. They sit in the sudden quiet. Something in him is quietly registering. I didn't realize how loud the house felt when she was here. You give them space without punishment. They begin noticing the empty chair, the cold coffee cup, the unspoken rhythm they took for granted. This isn't a manipulation tactic. This is just what two emotionally mature people naturally do when they stop using proximity as a substitute for presence. The longing finally breathes. That's the shift that turns a relationship that feels like a negotiation into one that feels like a refuge. Here's where it gets really interesting. Silence isn't a wall. It's a pause. Most couples interpret withdrawal as indifference, but what's actually happening beneath the surface is a nervous system finally processing years of unspoken tension without the need to defend itself. You've carried the weight of every unsaid worry. They've carried the weight of every unmet expectation. Emotional distance in a relationship isn't like a wall. It's like scar tissue that forms slowly over 100 small moments that never got repair. You stop filling every quiet second with questions. You let the stillness settle. What's moving through her is, I forgot how heavy the air felt before she stepped back. You hold your ground gently. They feel the absence of pressure. You both exhale. That's when the real work of turning toward each other begins, without a single word forced into the room. But here's what nobody explains. Longing needs empty space. Most people in relationships try to manufacture closeness through scheduled time and forced vulnerability. Yet true connection only blooms when both nervous systems have room to choose each other freely. You've spent months trying to pull them into your world. They've spent years shrinking to avoid the weight of it. Intimacy isn't built in the big moments. It's built in the 30-second ones, when you choose to look up without an agenda. You step back with quiet confidence. They begin noticing the small shifts. Something in him is quietly registering, she doesn't need me to fix this. She just needs me to stay when she's ready. You let the timeline belong to them. They start reaching back naturally. That's the moment they stop feeling trapped by obligation and start feeling drawn by genuine safety. And this is the one most couples never figure out. The return requires soft eyes. Most couples think the avoidant will come back ready for a full emotional overhaul, but real repair actually begins when they test the waters for gentle consistency instead of demanding instant vulnerability. You've waited for the grand apology. They're looking for proof the pressure won't return tomorrow. Your nervous system reads the shift before your logic catches up. When they finally lean in, you don't flood the space with unresolved history. You meet them with calm presence. You hold the door open without pulling them through it. That's when their guard finally melts into trust. This isn't a communication hack. This is what it looks like when someone has learned to love without losing themselves in the process. And when you do that, the walls between you start to come down without either of you having to say a word. This isn't a checklist you memorize. It's an invitation to become the kind of partner who leads with regulated presence instead of anxious pursuit. And that quietly rewires everything between you two. When you internalize this, you stop reacting to their distance and start responding to their nervous system. And they will feel the difference long before you explain a single point. Real intimacy doesn't start when you find the perfect person. It starts the moment you decide to stop chasing the old version of love and become the steady ground the right one can finally rest on.